Hey everybody, it's Professor Tifley. This is Philosophy 255, Chapter 7. This is the fifth and final video for this chapter. Okay, so here's where we're starting off. This one, the slide truth-telling, misrepresentation. Where were we? The slide before, talking about the journal assignment. So now, truth-telling, misrepresentation is covered for in 4.04 code section, dishonesty, fraud, and deception. Again, you should not participate in, condone, or be associated with dishonesty, fraud, or deception. This is related to your clients and beyond that, not just deceiving your clients, but deceiving the agency, insurance companies, doctors. This is just no deception. Again, remember, this is an ethics course, and the code of ethics is about being ethical, and most people would argue these three things: dishonesty, fraud, and deception are unethical, at least in most ethical schools of thought that we're abiding by here. So why tell the truth to clients? Well, again, it supports their dignity and worth. How does that support their dignity and worth? By being truthful with people. It does. I mean, it shows them to being you care, to be honest, that you trust them. People are, again, this is the practical imperative from Kantiism, that you can't use people, right? You can't use people without their knowledge, right? You're using me now for information for a class. I'm using you as students to get a job, to impart this information on, and to get a paycheck, that sort of thing. But that's okay because we know what we're doing here. We went in eyes wide open, as we've talked about. So that is why you need to be honest. This is just a basic human thing. Everybody's entitled to respect. I mean, I think you understand that. You also have a fiduciary duty to act in their best interest. The only way you can act in their best interest is to be truthful and honest and not deceive them, not defraud them. That should just make sense. Is there any situation where some dishonesty or deception is allowable? This is where some people might find or say maybe there's a gray area, but because this is really about what does it mean to be deceptive or dishonest here? Now, this is a little different than giving in the way you deliver a truth or information, right? Whether you sugarcoat it a little bit. You're going to know with your clients who's going to respond to certain ways, who needs a little bit more kid gloves, a softer touch, who doesn't, who wants things direct. That's different. As long as you're getting across the information, you're not, you're telling them, you're being honest with them, but maybe you break it to them in a softer way than you might to another. As long as you're still getting across that information and you're still telling them the truth, that's not deception or honesty. That's just your bedside manner. You're sort of ethic of care, right? How you deal with people. That's different than when you are trying to deceive them. And deception here is where you're purposely telling them the wrong thing, trying to get them something to believe something else. That is never allowable. So make the distinction there between softening some information and completely trying to deceive someone and tell them and get them to believe something that is false. Those are two different concepts there. So is there any situation where dishonesty and deception is allowable? No. Because again, according to the code, we do not lie to them. Now, it does not talk about that you can make things a little softer when you tell them the truth. But again, you have to tell them the truth. So no dishonesty, no deception. So now the other part of your journal assignment is this one. Look at exemplar 135, and you'll see there's exemplar 7.2 on page 135. You'll see it's entitled Gail Finds a Job. Take a look at that, and then afterwards it says there are several options you might consider. There's three of them, 3 bullet points there. Don't say anything, tell her everything, or point out advantages, sort of a middle ground. I want you to go through each option and tell me which one you would pick and explain why in a couple sentences. Again, this will be part of the assignment that's up there with more details, but so for the journal assignment for Chapter 7, it's going to be exemplar 7.1, 7.2. Again, you only need a sentence or two for each option, same as there. You just got to explain yourself. So this should not be very long. All right, so other justifications. There are people who will lie, and there are some justifications for this. And you can see this on page 135 to 136 in your text. Some of these, just going by the list here at the bottom of page 135, some that are listed by practitioners are things like they want the client has selected a goal and the social worker or caregiver doesn't think it's the right one, so they make a client trying to get them see the client's selected goal as less desirable, so to push them off the path, to get them to create new goals, right? So lying to them to get to the end there. So that would be the ends justifying the means. That's a very utilitarian approach, which it does allow lying, but we're avoiding that here. We don't want to lie to them. To obscure options where, say, you really have one option that you want them to take, maybe because it benefits you, say there's conflict of interest, you'll make up lies about the other options, making yours seem the best, even though it's probably not the best for the client, but you benefit from it, some there. To increase options, so creating false options out there, create, change cost benefit announcements, or increase, decrease client uncertainty. But that, again, is doing it by lying. So you're not really achieving anything there, but those are often justifications given. You go on to page 136, there's even more there. Again, then you could look at 7.3 and 7.4, and they explain each of them after there. Again, you really should not be lying, is there. You can't... you have to tell the truth in all of these. You really do. And that is the goal, is to avoid deception here. And you can see 7.3, 4, and 7.3 and 7.4. Going back there, sorry, too quick. Just looking quickly at 7.3. The issue here is shorthand is you're a social worker in a hospital, your client who you're working with needs foot surgery. You find out that the doctor only gave the client the patient some of the available options and left out others. So what do you do in this case there? Well, you need to get involved in some way there. Either talk to the physician beforehand, but what you need to do is you need to make the client aware of this, because this goes to informed consent, right? How can you have informed consent? We've done with this in different chapters. You need to know all the options. Even if the doctor doesn't, think it's the best option, you need to still give them out there, and then you could ask questions, but they need to know all available options for them. 7.4 deals with there's money donated for a specific purpose, but now you're looking to repurpose that money. Can you do it without telling the people who donated? No, you can't. You have to be honest with them, right? They say they want it used for A, and you decide to use it for B. That's not right? They gave that money. Here's what they wanted it to go towards. You have to be talk to them about it. Maybe they will allow you to repurpose the money, but you need to be honest with them there. And then again, now let's look at 7.5, and this is conflicted loyalties. To whom does Carl owe loyalty do? And what should he do and why? Carl owes loyalty here to multiple parties. That's the multiple and conflicted loyalties. He owes them to Roger, owes loyalty to Roger, his buddy. He owes to Roger as his coworker, but he also owes it to his employer, to society, and to his coworker. So what should he do? Again, the issue here is should he, his friend's looking for a reference for a job promotion, but the guy's has been distracted, hasn't been doing his best. There seems to be something wrong. So what should he do? Give a glowing report? Should he refuse to give it, or does he tell the truth? This is difficult, because there's a lot to worry about here. Carl also loyalty to himself. So if you give out recommendations for people who turn out to be bad or do bad, that's going to reflect on you too. So there's a lot to consider here. One would be try talking to his buddy again. Try talking to him as a friend. Try talking to him as a coworker, and then you just need to be honest in the in the reference. And again, this is an art you'll learn as you write these more and more, but you could say sometimes it's what's said and what's unsaid right in there. But there's a way to do this diplomatically, but again, you should probably talk to your coworker first about this. But again, you have a lot of conflicted loyalties, and that's what we're talking to. You owe something to everybody there. You got to weigh those. I would say the ones weighing them to yourself, to protecting your friend, not to put him in a bad position, not to put clients in danger, not to endanger your job, not to endanger the agency. All of those need to be weighed there, and you need to choose from those. So what, here's a big thing though. What is truth or deception? I've talked about it. To make clear, truth, or the question of whether something is a deception turns on intent, the speaker's intent. What do we mean by that? So just knowing the truth doesn't mean doesn't necessarily result in telling the truth, and not knowing the truth, conversely, does not always result in a deception. So here's the example. You ask me a question. I know the answer to it. I give you the wrong answer. Now, that is only a deception if I meant to deceive you. So did I willingly and knowingly give you the wrong answer, or did I just screw up? If I just screwed up, you asked me a question, I got the answer wrong, even though I knew what the right answer was, but I just wasn't on point that day. That's not a deception. That was a mistake. It's a deception where I know what the truth is. I am choosing to tell you the non-truth, right? So I'm trying to deceive you. I wanted to tell you what's not the truth. That's a deception. So it really is an intent. What was my intention? A screw up is not a deception. Again, an honest screw up is not a deception. So again, it turns on speaker's intent. And so again, here's a chart on this. Statement is factual. Right, is when they intended to deceive, that's when it's a deception. This is when they intend to deceive it. Unknowingly spoke a truth. So you can see that there. So use deception in practice. When, if I should to deceive a client, really none, right? We've talked about this. So, small lies, big lies, they're all the same. Think a slippery slope, that thing. You can see this more on page 138 to 139. They explain it pretty well there. But yeah, deception, again, none to be used here in that way. Another forms of deception that you will see are diagnosis and misdiagnosis, and this is the DSM-5 here. Sometimes they require diagnosis, insurance, government programs, things like that. Sometimes social workers and others have been known to to lie on these for good reason. What they would claim are good reasons, at least, right? One question is, though, should a social worker use this? Because this, again, for psychiatric association, not all social workers are going to be dealing in that, but that's for another one. And you can see exemplar 7.6 on 139. This one covers the idea of let's misdiagnose our client, say they have something worse than they do, and this way the insurance company will cover everything. Forget it, it's a big company, they can pay for it. Now, that is still a deception. The problem with that is insurance companies are in the business to make money. Sure, your client's not going to pay, but everybody else that subscribes to that insurance company is going to see it go up in their premium, so there is an impact on that. Other reason why people would misdiagnose here, there are other reasons, and again, they're always trying to be to be done in for something good, but no, it's not good. You cannot purposely misdiagnose. Again, that's lying, defrauding, deception. But yeah, it's the mercy one, right? So some will use at least potentially harmful diagnosis, underdiagnosing, because once you're diagnosed with sometimes people hold prejudices or biases, or it could keep people from certain jobs, and so you don't want to hurt them, and so you'll say it's something else. Again, that's not helping them. It could also put them in harm, put others in harm. Justifications minimizes damage and confidential information. Avoids labeling. And all this self-esteem. If they find out that you've diagnosed them with something, they could take that the wrong way. And again, protect future employment. And you can see exemplar 7.7 on 140. And again, the difference between mistakes and deception. It turns on the same things we talked about. So again, you cannot misdiagnose. That these are going to have an impact. And again, if you misdiagnose now, that could have an impact on treatment options later, where you say they have something that they don't, or they need help for something that they don't. This could mess up the process. The last thing here is really this is burning out, compassion fatigue, and secondary PTSD. These are all possible. You will burn out. It's possible in these fields. You're going to be around a lot of trauma, a lot of people's problems. You're going to be, overworked, busy. People in the helping fields are always finding this. You got to find ways to deal with it that especially aren't substance abuse, because unfortunately that is a problem for many. And because why? Because it is possible to get PTSD from hearing about the trauma of others, and that can really happen. And unfortunately, people will turn to vices and things like that, and you need to try to avoid that. But you also, compassion fatigue, you also don't want to become the person who becomes cold, where nothing moves them there. I wish I had answers on what you should do there. You got to find what works for you. Different groups, hobbies, friends, family, ways of it. For me, so if I feel I'm burnt out and I need to clear my head, I'll watch some stupid movies or stupid TV or play video games, something, music, something to distract me. You'll find your own. But, there are self-help groups and coalitions that work together for people in these fields, because you're going to deal with the same trauma. And you should be encouraged to seek those out. But just be aware of this. It is a problem that people will find in any of these fields, and you need to recognize it and deal with it. But yeah, there is help out there for this. So that's all you need to know for that. So that is the end of chapter 7. All right, thank you.